The inspection period can be a very tricky and difficult situation to navigate for most buyers and sellers. In this video, I'll talk about what happens during the inspection period and also talk about a law specific to California that has a lot of people divided. Talk about things that are done in the inspection period. Most of the time, there's usually an inspection done by a licensed inspector. They'll often look through and find any issues that range from minor issues such as patched paint to major issues such as a leaking roof. Now this part usually surprises a lot of buyers because even a home that's in a good condition often has a long list of things sent from the inspector. Here's the inspection report on one of my listings, which is 32 pages long, which is pretty normal. Other inspections that might be done include termite inspection, mold inspection, pool inspection, etc. Then there are the seller disclosures. This is where the seller has to disclose anything that could affect the desirability of the home for the buyer. An example of that could be death inside the home a year before escrow. There was a property that my buyers were looking at that was previously an assisted care facility. This property had over 5 deaths in the previous 2 years. Now my buyers knew about this before submitting an offer, but this is something that could turn off a lot of buyers. Agent disclosures are next. Here an agent must disclose any information that could affect the desirability for the buyer. An example could be a neighbor's dog that's always barking. Natural hazard disclosures, or also known as NHD, is often required in California. This discloses natural factors such as whether the home is in a flood zone or a fire hazard zone, or sometimes even both. Once all the inspection is over, here's what can be done. The buyer can continue to move forward with the deal. That usually means the buyer removes the inspection contingency. If the home is in good condition or if there are no major findings during the inspection, this is often the route the buyers take. You can send a request for repairs where you're asking the seller to fix things in the houses that needs to be fixed or asking the seller to adjust the price. From there, the seller could agree to fix those things or fix some of those things, or the seller could agree to reduce the price to your asking or meet somewhere in the middle. If the buyers like the seller's response, they can agree to continue with the deal. If not, they could counter again. Sometimes in a transaction, there's usually a few back and forth between the seller and the buyer before they come to an agreement. This often depends on several factors such as, does the seller have a strong backup offer? Is it a seller's market or a buyer's market? Does the buyer have plenty of offers to choose from? Also, what sense of urgency does the seller or the buyer have? If no agreement is made between both parties, they can cancel the deal. California is a very buyer-friendly state, so very often only the buyer could cancel the escrow. The seller may be able to cancel if the buyers don't perform their certain duties by a deadline. There are situations where the buyer doesn't remove the contingencies by the contingency period, but the seller still has to send a notice to perform and wait a few days before they can even cancel the deal. One side argues that this is very unethical towards the seller because sometimes in an escrow, a buyer could pull tricks leveraging this rule. The other side argues that this makes sense because the seller could always find a similar buyer, but for the buyer, it can be difficult to find a similar replacement property because real estate is non-fungible. This is because there's only one property in that exact specific location, and each property has its own unique features that's hard to replace. That being said, having an agent that could guide you through the steps could save you a lot of headache, and they could also help you navigate through the negotiation process. If you would like for me to represent you, you could contact me here. Thanks for watching. Till next time.